I'm not sure if any of you have ever heard of St. Helena, but while researching Napoleon's life, there was one particular place that kept popping up in his biography, Longwood House, and it turns out this house is allegedly haunted by the ghost of Napoleon himself. So today we're going to be exploring Napoleon's ghostly encounters and uncovering the haunting of St. Helena. Napoleon was a French military leader and emperor who conquered much of Europe in the early 19th century, but after his defeat at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, he was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean. He spent his final years living in a small cottage on the island and died there in 1821. Now, the strange thing about Napoleon's death is that he wasn't actually supposed to be on that island. You see, before he was sent to St. Helena, he was initially exiled to the island of Elba, which is much closer to mainland Europe. But when Napoleon escaped from Elba and returned to France, the British captured him and decided to send him even farther away to St. Helena. Upon arriving on the island, Napoleon was placed under the control of a British official named Hudson Lowe, who oversaw the construction of a new house for Napoleon to live in, which was called Longwood House. Now, Longwood House was isolated and dreary, and it was clear that the British were trying to make Napoleon as uncomfortable as possible. In addition to the miserable living conditions, Napoleon began to experience strange and unsettling events that seemed to be connected to the house itself. One day, while walking around the grounds, he came across a cemetery and noticed that one of the graves had been recently dug up. As he approached the grave, he saw a group of men carrying a coffin to a different part of the cemetery. They were careful to hide the coffin from view, but Napoleon got a good look at it and noticed that it was covered in wax and had no name or identifying marks. On another occasion, Napoleon was awakened in the middle of the night by the sound of someone walking around his room. He dismissed it as his imagination until one night he heard the sound again and saw the shadow of a man walking across his ceiling. Startled, Napoleon called for his servants, but they found nothing. Throughout his stay at Longwood House, Napoleon experienced strange phenomena like objects moving on their own, footsteps in the attic above him, and even ghostly apparitions that appeared and disappeared at will. Now, these events understandably shook Napoleon, and he began to believe that the house was haunted. He confided in his valet that he believed the ghost was the spirit of a sailor who had died on the island and whose body was buried beneath the floorboards of his bedroom. Now, the story goes that one night Napoleon was writing in his study when he heard chains dragging metal moans. He stopped writing and listened intently. Then he slowly and carefully began to remove the floorboards to reveal the skeleton of a sailor. Though Napoleon never actually saw the ghost, he was convinced that the house was haunted and that the ghost was trying to communicate with him. Before his death in 1821, he wrote to his physician, Dr. Antamaki, describing the strange events that had occurred since his arrival on the island, including the moving objects, footsteps, and eerie sounds. He also mentioned the sailor's ghost and his belief that the house was haunted. But what do you think? Are these really the ghostly encounters of Napoleon, or are they just a figment of his imagination? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to check out more content where we bring you the most amazing and mysterious stories from human history. Thanks for watching.